the operating budget. So that's how we ended the year in broad terms. And this team deserves a huge amount of credit for that, because when you're in the midst of an expansion, a capital expansion like we were, the risk is poaching donors from your annual support base. So you take away your annual support donors in the name of the campaign, and that didn't happen. We actually grew our annual support base. And I think there's lots of further opportunity to do that. Okay. Any questions about that? Now I'm going to go through a huge amount of info in a relatively short period. And if this is making you go to sleep, or if you want to talk to me offline and ask questions, I'd be so glad to get answers or give you answers. But I'm going to now take you to the 2014 program report. And this is a 25-page doc that Mike put together, and many of you helped with that. And what we're going to do, because it's such a long document, is quickly move through it. And Mike or anybody else, if you will, I'll chime in sort of the high notes, the things that I think people might be interested in on this. So I'm going to skip that. So this is an overview. This is where you see individual visits, families served, overnight stays, rooms available, occupancy rate, average family size, length of stay, volunteer hours, meals served. And so you see 2013-14, the difference or variance. So we served 32% more families in 2014 than we did in 2013. And remember, we only had this house open for part of the year. We didn't have this house for the entire year. So I suspect it will be significantly more this year. It's hard to project, but a ton more. And then you see the family room. It's pretty extraordinary. The 43,000 visits, 6,600 families, 1,300 overnight stays. So at the house, our rooms operated at 90% occupancy. At the family room, the overnight rooms operated at 92% occupancy. Average family size is 2.8. At the house, at the family room, it was 1.8. Average length of stay was 6 days. Volunteer hours, 30% more volunteer hours here, 140% here. And then I'm not trying to skip Ogden. I don't mean that. I know Lisa's not here, but it's important not to skip Ogden. So as you know, or may not know, Ogden, the Ogden Family Room is located in a very small regional hospital, not a children's hospital. And so the numbers are significantly different than they are at Primary Children's. So they served 122 families, and which is 50% more than they served in the last year. And they visited 693 times.
One quick comment on the average length of stay. What's interesting as we talk about the growth of the charity in terms of the house, we were afraid that people would start to stay longer because
And that's what everybody told me. They're staying longer. It's so nice. Nobody's leaving.
There's this beautiful facility. There's lots of things.
They're never going to leave.
Free food. When in fact, average length of stay went down from 2013 to 2014. So that's a metric that we'll continue to watch over the next few years to see what happens, similar to the Adopt-A-Meal program, with Adopt-A-Meals actually on an increase as well.
Because the longer people stay, the fewer people you can serve. So there's a correlation between turnaways and length of stay, right? Because you get to serve more people if they stay a shorter period of time. So there's that. Here is a graph that shows where families came from that were served by the house and the family rooms combined. So essentially, the house serves people who live in outlying areas and other states. The family room primarily serves families along the Wasatch Front and Salt Lake County, and some families from outlying areas. And this is another representation of families served at the house, at the Primary Children's Hospital Family Room, Ogden Regional. So we can share with folks who might be interested to know how many families we served from Salt Lake County, how many families we served from Utah County at Primary Children's, or how many families we served at the house from Weber County or whatever. Then this is a graphic representation. So the orange represents families served at the house where their home of origin is, and then the red represents Ogden, and the green Primary Children's Hospital. And I think we would need the lights down to really see the color, but essentially this is another representation showing that Primary Children's is serving the Wasatch Front, and the house serves folks in the outlying areas. And what's exciting about that is that our charity is now meeting the mission with families here, which we weren't always doing. Income. So this is a graph that shows income of families at the house and at the two family rooms. And essentially, I think it stands to reason that incomes tend to be lower at the house because people are coming from small rural communities where economic opportunities are limited and incomes are likely lower. And they're higher at Primary Children's because they're drawing folks from the Wasatch Front where there are more economic opportunities and so forth. And then you can also see that Ogden's are slightly lower. Ethnicities served. So last year, and this is the graph, Mike, is combined, right? So 67% of the families that we served were Caucasian. And this is self-report, of course. About 13% were Latino, Hispanic. 6%, is this unknown? Let's see. Yeah, unreported. So the relevance here is we have to make sure that we're meeting the needs of Spanish-speaking families. That's what this says to me, is that it's really important that we're a place that feels welcoming to people of all faiths, races, cultures, religions, and that we have the cultural competency so that people feel like this is a place for them, and regardless.
And on that note, so as we continue to work on a relationship with Shriners Hospital, Shriners serves a very large population of individuals who identify as Hispanic or Latino. So this number will hopefully grow in the years to come. So we will continue to.
We want to make a concerted effort, yeah. Adopt-A-Meal, yikes. So this is that Adopt-A-Meal graph that we referred to. So you can see that in 2001, we had 116 Adopt-A-Meal groups or meals covered by volunteer groups. And in 2014, we had 797. And I really just can't say enough about how huge this is and what significant growth there has been. And the red represents the family room, the blue the house, right? Volunteers, holy macaroni. So this is the volunteer graph, and it graphs board volunteer hours, community service hours, volunteers at Ogden, volunteers at the family room at Primary Children's, and then house volunteers. So the light blue are the house volunteers, I believe, and then the purple is Primary Children's, green Ogden, red community service, and the bottom are the board hours. Again, huge kudos to everyone, Lauren specifically. Hospitals served. So about 70% of the families who came to the house were referred by Primary Children's, 20% from the University of Utah, and 9% or 10% from Shriners. And then we served, it looks like, 13 families from Intermountain Medical Center in Murray. They wish we'd serve more, but we don't do a shuttle there right now, so they don't do as many referrals. So there's something. So there's that. And that has been pretty steady in my 4 years here, at least. And those who have been here longer might have other thoughts about it. Trends in unpaid nights and paid nights. So for many years, we've said, well, about half of our nights are paid and half of our nights are unpaid. And when we say paid, for those who may not know, it costs us, and it depends on the year and the number of rooms we have and how much people eat, and how big their family is, but it costs us somewhere around $70 to $80 a night to provide one night's stay for a family. We ask them to make a voluntary contribution at the house of $20 a night, and about half are able to, and half are not. Now, the green represents nights paid, the red represents nights billed to Medicaid, and the blue represents nights paid. So, sorry, unpaid is green, red is billed, and blue is paid. So I always, when I'm talking to groups, say, well, about half of our nights are paid and half are unpaid. And we don't want to ever give people the pressure of feeling like they have to pay to stay here, or to turn somebody away because they can't pay, or to harass them with billings or make them feel badly or anything. And having that contribution means people treat the place better because it's a shared community.